play a video, and this is a creator. I think Uncle Nephew is his name, and he did a 4-part series on Instagram explaining why the Jacksons' Triumph album, which is their 4th album on Epic Records, is better than Michael's Off the Wall album. Now, of course, as you know, Triumph is that album in between Off the Wall and Thriller. It gets lost. If you're like a casual Michael fan, the album gets lost, actually, sometimes. Because Off the Wall is that damn big. He made a case on this 2-minute video I'm going to play here why Triumph has been Off the Wall. Let's run this video here, and we'll see it. We'll react to it.
Been Off the Wall. Now I know this is a hot take, it's controversial, it's clickbaity. Why am I saying this? Well, really because Triumph is the forgotten middle child between Off the Wall and Thriller. Off the Wall, which came out in 1979, was Michael Jackson's 5th solo album. It was his first adult solo album on Epic Records. It was produced by Quincy Jones. They had both just came off of doing The Wiz. That was Michael Jackson's movie debut. Off the Wall comes out in 1979. It's a huge success. Triumph comes out in 1980. It's the follow-up to Off the Wall and the Jackson's Destiny album, which came out in 1978. And then after Triumph comes out, Thriller comes out in 1982, the biggest selling album of all time, yada, yada, yada. Triumph is often forgotten about because there were so many hits on Off the Wall. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, Working Day and Night, Thriller, Billie Jean, Lady in My Life, Beat It, yada, yada, yada. But Triumph had bangers. Lovely One, Can You Feel It, This Place Hotel, a lesser known one, but one of my favorites, Everybody, and so much more. To me, what makes Triumph great are the sonics. Different from Destiny, it's different from Off the Wall and from Thriller. Also, similarly, you have reoccurring personnel that played on Destiny, Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad that were a part of the Triumph album. David Williams on guitar, who's probably Michael Jackson's most notable guitarist, being his tour guitarist, and playing a lot of Michael Jackson's iconic guitar lines. Wanna Be Starting Something, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Smooth Criminal, Billie Jean. You have Michael Sembello, you have Paul Jackson Jr., you have Phil Upchurch, you have Nathan Watts, who's Stevie Wonder's longtime bass player. He also played on Destiny. You have Ollie Brown, who's one of my favorite drummers. He also played on 2 tracks on Bad. You have Paulinho DaCosta and many others as well. But one person that I want to highlight is Greg Fillinganes, who is the GOAT. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time. He wrote, he arranged, he was Michael's MD on the Bad and Dangerous tour. He played with Stevie. There's a famous story of a cassette tape of Greg Fillinganes getting to Stevie, and Stevie thinking that was himself playing, but it was really Greg Fillinganes. And another thing to pay attention to on this Triumph record, as far as the personnel, is that there are a lot of Detroit cats on this record. Ollie Brown, Greg Fillinganes, and Nathan Watts are all from Detroit, and that I think is essential to the sound of the rhythm section. Also, to point out, one of my favorite drummers, and I think the most important drummer in the Michael Jackson touring conversation, is Ricky Lawson, who is also from Detroit. It's also important to note that a lot of the more important musicians in the Michael Jackson hemisphere came from Stevie Wonder's camp. Brad Buxer, who was Michael Jackson's longtime MD after Greg Fillinganes, also important songwriter and producer in the Michael Jackson camp, came from Stevie Wonder. Greg Fillinganes, Ollie Brown, Nathan Watts, and Ricky Lawson came from Stevie Wonder's camp.
All right, let's talk about it, man. Because this is a bit of a hot take, I guess. If you're a casual fan, you're like, "The fuck you talking about? Off the Wall's Off the Wall. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But here's what I'm gonna say: as a hardcore, and you're a hardcore too, also. If there's a case for Triumph being at the very least on level Off the Wall, it's one thing for me. It's the reason why it's their best album as the Jacksons, even better than Destiny. Even though you like argue that all the time, you like Destiny more than Triumph. I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
the production on Triumph is incredible. And for me, it hit me a couple weeks ago. I've been listening to the record a lot lately too. Also, it hit me why I love that album so much more than any of the Jackson's album. The album, I feel like it pushes out sound in a way. Like that album is just forward. The sound. Everything is forward. The bass is forward. Michael's vocals is forward. Everything seems to be a lot more amplified on that album in ways that Destiny wasn't. And then Off the Wall, of course, it's Off the Wall. Now, where Off the Wall is going to win this battle no matter what is simple. The standouts are the standouts. You don't have a song on Triumph that could compete with Rock With You or Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. I argue if you have anything that competes with Off the Wall, the song, honestly. But Triumph, in my opinion, is an unskippable record for me personally. The production's amazing. So while I don't agree with it being a better album overall, sonically, than than Off the Wall. I will say it's not a bad take. I'll give you that one. Floor's yours.
Okay. The take is trash. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
Because number one, yeah, I don't agree that Triumph is better than Destiny. I think Destiny is superior. I do agree. The production leap that the Jacksons made from Destiny to Triumph was big. The orchestration and arrangement was far more ambitious and intricate on Triumph than it was on Destiny. What I will say is, in terms of comparing it to Off the Wall, Triumph sounds the way it does because of Off the Wall.
Correct. It's actually a continuation Off the Wall. Yes,
because that's where the Jackson brothers were trying to do. The weird thing is that when they made Destiny, that was the album that they envisioned making when they left Motown. They said, we are good enough to write and produce our own music. Yeah. And they fought hard to do that. It took them 2 albums before at CBS before they were able to do it. Shout out to Gamble and Huff. Mm-hmm. And McFadden and Whitehead and Dexel and Denzel.
Right.
You know, all the Philly guys. But when they got to Destiny, they made their sound and they sounded like them. And then Michael made Off the Wall because he wanted a distinction between the Jackson sound, which was Destiny, and the Michael Jackson sound, which was Off the Wall. Mm-hmm. And then Triumph became Jackson's album that was mimicking the Michael Jackson sound. And that's why it's not better than Destiny, let alone Off the Wall. Not to, it's kind of like the whole Midnight Marauders versus Low End Theory. Yeah. Like Midnight Marauders wouldn't exist without Low End Theory.
Right.
You can't say that about People's Instinctive Travels versus Low End Theory because they'd sound nothing alike. They're 2 completely different things. But Midnight Marauders wouldn't be what it was if it weren't for Low End Theory. The same way that Triumph wouldn't be what it is without Off the Wall. Not even without Destiny, without Off the Wall, because Destiny and Triumph don't sound alike at all.
I think I figured out why I love Triumph more than Destiny, and I think it's one major thing for me. Destiny sounds like a Jackson's album. Triumph, outside maybe 2 songs that obviously either Randy or Jackie does, sounds like a Michael Jackson record.
And that's why it's not better than Destiny. Because Destiny is a Jackson's album. And Triumph is a Michael Jackson. Like
Michael does sound so much more confident on Triumph as a vocalist.
Dude.
Than that's on Destiny.
That's the other thing about Triumph. That's the engineering and the mixing on Triumph is it ruined.
Is it too loud?
It ruined it. Okay, so it's too flat. So the engineering, like if you listen to the engine, if you listen to Off the Wall,
yeah,
from an engineering, recording, and mixing standpoint, it's like you can grab. It's like you can grab it. It sounds so full and so rich. It sounds like it was made today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a template for like Dr. Dre's The Chronic in terms of the engineering and all that stuff. Like
Bruno Mars record sounds like Off the Wall.
Exactly. So that's exactly my point. So my whole thing is like when you listen to Triumph is really, really thin. The engineering of the sound, it's super thin. When there's no warmth to the record when you listen to it in terms of the engineering. When you compare it to Off the Wall and even Destiny, it's really thin, and the songs are sped up. If you listen to the original raw mixes, half of Triumph is sped up. Lovely One is sped up. Wondering Who is sped up. Everybody is sped up. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, for what? That Michael's bridge on Wondering Who was cut out?
Because of the speed.
But it's because they ran into that problem. They didn't realize how much time they had to put on a vinyl. And they probably, this is just me speculating, they probably realized, okay, this album is too long. We got to fit it on a vinyl. So let's speed up some of these songs. So make it fit. Let's cut the bridge out of Wondering Who so the song can fit. There's been speculation that Michael wanted his voice to sound higher, which doesn't make any sense because
I don't know why. It's high enough as is.
Not all the songs are sped up. Can you feel it? Heartbreak Hotel. If you say this Break Hotel, you're a communist.
I'll never say that. I never say that. So
that's terrible. But Heartbreak Hotel is not sped up. Walk Right Now is not sped up.
I would argue Heartbreak Hotel sounds better sped up, actually.
The tempo sounds better sped up, but the key is different. When they speed it up, the
live version makes it that way for me.
It changes the key.
Right.
So when you listen to the raw mix of Lovely One, the raw mix of Wondering Who, and the raw mix of Everybody, neck and neck with the actual final album version, it sounds like, you remember like when you had your cassette tapes and you would make it so it sounded like the Chipmunks?
Yep.
That's what that sounds like. And I always thought it was weird because because I heard the Jacksons live, which is the album that came out after Triumph,
81,
and I listened to. That's the first time I heard Lovely One. That's the first time I'd heard Heartbreak Hotel, and those songs. So when I listened to Lovely One on Triumph after that, I'm like, why does Mike sound so high? But he doesn't sound high on every other song. But it's because the songs were sped up, and I'm just like, for what? Why did you do that to just 3 songs or a few songs and not the whole thing?
Right.
It had to have been for that reason, because it doesn't make any sense. And like I said, it sounds warmer when you slow it down to its original thing. It sounds warmer. It sounds thicker. It sounds. It doesn't sound so crunched.
I'll give a perfect example of that. I'll give a perfect example. Tempo means, people don't understand how much tempo means. So, the Metallica, sad but true. You know the original demo was the tempo of the song was much faster than the actual final product. Bob Rock said, slow that bitch down because it sounds much more crunchier and heavier and much more weightier when it's slowed down. And honestly, that song sounds way better slowed down than it does sped up.
Way better.
Way better. It's crunchier. The guitars stand on you more.
It's
the
got
wall of guitars. The wall of guitars.
So it's the most stink face song in Metallica's catalog.
And so that's the whole point is like tempo, even a smidge of a tempo change can make or break a song.
Absolutely. I'll give it another example. So back in the early days of YouTube, people had to speed up certain songs when they would post them to keep them from getting copyright strikes and keep them from getting removed on YouTube. So the first time I heard Neo's 4th album, Libra Scale, the whole thing was sped up with the exception of like Champagne Life and the single Beautiful Monster, the first single Beautiful Monster. So like songs like Making a Movie and Telekinesis and Crazy Love and Cause I Said So, those all were sped up. Which also means that the key was higher. YouTube now has it so you can speed up a song and the song will stay in the same key. But before, people had to speed it up so that people, you wouldn't have to take it down. And that's how I was introduced to Libra Scale. So I always thought that was the original album. When a family friend played Libra Scale in her car, and it was the original version, and I heard songs like What Have I Done and songs like Cause I Said So in their actual speed, which was slower with a different key, I was like, oh no, I don't like this album as much as I did before, to the point where now when I listen to the album, I look for the old sped up version instead of listening to the original. That's about the way I was introduced to it. But so I understand why tempo is important. But at the same time, when it goes both ways, speeding up a song could make a difference, slowing down a song could make a difference. When I listened to Lovely One, even though it was slowed down, knowing that was Michael's real key and that's his real voice, that made a huge difference to
That song sounds better slowed down than it does faster when it was performed live.
me. Yeah.
Because the bass, bung, bung, bada, bung, it stands out much
Oh, the
more,
bass
and
is
that one,
great on
the
that
bass
song.
drives that song, and it doesn't have the same effect when you speed it up.
Same thing with Everybody. Shout out to Michael McKinney who co-wrote Everybody, who played bass
I
on
want to
it.
hear those demos actually of all those songs before they actually put
The
it.
demos sound pretty good, but the raw versions of the actual songs, like before they were like finally mixed,
Mm-hmm.
that sound like the songs on the album, but that don't like the raw mix of Heartbreak Hotel doesn't have the string opening,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the song, and it's the extended version of the song. So there's extended ad libs that Michael would do and stuff like that.
Right.
But if you listen to the raw mixes of Triumph, it's superior to the final version of Triumph.
Yeah, I got to check those out.
Yeah, so that's another reason why it's not better than Off.
So what you're saying basically, this Off the Wall versus Triumph thing is a bad take by.
It's not a. Let me put it this way. It's not a. It's an interesting take. It's a better take than Off the Wall is better than Thriller, which is the laziest music take in history. It's a very lazy take to say Off the Wall is better than Thriller. It's too easy.
I prefer one Thriller, but you can't.
I mean,
ignore
they're
the impact.
to me. They're like the same. They're the same record.
Well,
I mean,
yes and no. I mean,
yes and no. Let me put it this way.
Those more dynamic than Off the
Wall.
Wall.
They're equal though. I think. Okay, so my opinion, Off the Wall is musically more intriguing or more satisfying than Thriller. But
really,
but Thriller
I'm
is
surprised
more.
You said that.
But Thriller is more thematically satisfying than Off the Wall. Off the Wall, it's about dancing and cheating.
Yeah.
You know, every song is about dancing or it's about cheating.
Thriller has more dynamics.
Thriller has a whole bunch of stuff.
It was catered to a larger audience.
Absolutely, it was, and I just like it. Plus, there's so much more. There's so much more alike than people realize. I mean, they're both produced by Quincy Jones. They're both engineered by Bruce Swedien. They both have Paul McCartney contributions that have to do with love triangles. They both have the 12 musicians in common, including Greg Gaines, David
Greg
Williams, all those guys, Paulina DaCosta, and like Michael Boddicker. Yep. So they have that. They all have 3 contributions from Rod Temperton. Rod Temperton wrote the title track for both of them. Rod Temperton has the closing song on both of them. Mm-hmm. Michael has the opening song on both of them. Both of the opening songs are over 6 minutes, and both of the opening songs rely heavily on African polyrhythms and a repetitive but infectious bass line. There's so much more in common about those 2 albums than that it's hard for me to pin one against the other. And I actually for years, because people ask me this for years, and I would literally every year, once or twice, I will sit down and listen to them back to back just to see if I prefer. And every time I listen to Off the Wall first, I'm like, dude, as soon as it gets like maybe halfway through working day and night, I'm like, dude, there's no way Thriller's better than this album. And then I finish it and I'm like, dude, that was perfect. And then I'll listen to Thriller. Once I get to Human Nature, I'm like, oh no, this is pretty airtight as it gets. Yeah, right. So, another thing, both of them, the main ballad on them is written by a white guy who wrote about a white woman in distress.
Right.
Because Human Nature is written by Steve Porcaro, who wrote about his daughter who had a bad day at school, and She's Out of My Life was written by Tom Baller, who wrote that after he
just passed away recently too. Also, like a week or 2 ago.
Tom Baller passed away.
I thought he passed away a couple days ago. Hold on, let me make sure now.
Oh no, hold on.
Let me make sure. I'll tell you now. Hold on.
I gotta.
Tom Baller, Baller.
Tom.
Yeah, he died. He died March 2nd. Yeah, March 2nd. He died.
Folks, like I said, he was a
Yep, March 2nd this year. Hold on, you cut out a little bit. Hold on.
Oh damn, man. He
Yeah, he
should.
did die.
Gosh,
Yeah, that sucks.
82. Oh man.
By the way, she's not alive. Was written for
that
Frank
does
Sinatra.
suck.
You know that, right? Did you know that?
Yes, and Quincy talked them out of it, and they held on to that song for almost 3 years before they gave it to Michael.
That's interesting.
Because
That is
Quincy was
interesting.
holding out for the right singer.
That is
Because
interesting.
Quincy knew Sinatra. He's like, Sinatra will do it anyway. But Tom Baller also, Tom Baller, wrote "She's Out of My Life." He also replayed the Synclavier stock beat that is the intro of "Beat It."
Mhm.
Doom,
The beginning, right?
Doom, doom. He replayed that.
That intro is legendary.
He also was legendary, and he also was a huge part of the arrangement on "We Are the World." If you watch we talked about this when we talked about The Greatest Night and pop.
2 years ago, we did that podcast.
Yeah. And I had no idea Tom Baller was the guy that was responsible for putting all the soloists in order. Like,
Genius. Genius.
Shout out to Tom Baller. Right? May he
Absolutely.
rest in peace.
All right. Speaking of geniuses, last thing we get you out of here.